Hey everyone, I'm Larry Walsh.
Amy Henderson.
And this is Channelnomics in the Margins, and we're coming to you from Madrid, Spain. We just wrapped up a week here with the Global Technology Distribution Council for their EMEA Summit. Amy, it really was an amazing event.
It was an amazing event, and the crazy thing about it was we had some big news that was announced during the event, and we were all anticipating it. And to just bring out the elephant in the room, it was the tariff announcement. I believe it was the second day it was announced.
Yeah, well, actually, they were talking about it beforehand. So the Europeans, like other countries around the world, have been anticipating the Trump tariffs. And so there was a lot to say about it. I think the really interesting thing about it, though, is that in the U.S., we have MAGA, Make America Great Again. What we're hearing from the Europeans is good for you. We have MEGA. We're going to make Europe great again. And I think that that's really the story coming out of this event.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think that from the being on the ground in Spain with everyone here for GTDC from countries all over Europe, you really get a perspective from the entire EU in terms of how it's affecting them, what they're anticipating, what they're planning to do in terms of planned talks with the U.S., what they're doing to, I don't want to say retaliate, but maybe countermeasures, right? And how it affects. Because I think at the end of the day, the U.S. is setting itself to be a little bit isolated in terms of trade. And I think that the Europeans are seeing that, and it's unifying them in a sense that has never been done in the past decade, I think.
Well, I think some of the many conversations we've spoke with people from around the continent, from Europe, the Middle East, and Africa that were attending this event. They are all pretty much saying the same thing: is that they do want better relations with the U.S. They hope that this will normalize. Surprisingly, several people shared with us that they see these tariffs as being somewhat justified, is that there is an imbalance that needs to be corrected, but they don't see the need for such a shock to the system. But ultimately, they do see themselves becoming more economically and militarily independent of the U.S. And I think that that is probably the big thing. We actually had a few vendors and distributors talk with us about moving away from American brands. So that they are saying that, well, if the U.S. is going to be this way, then maybe we need to be working with technology vendors from China, from Japan, from India, and make ourselves stronger that way. And I mean, I think that that's really, when you talk about the U.S. becoming more isolated, that's the downside of what could happen from all of this.
Yeah, well, and from the partner standpoint and from the distributor standpoint, figuring out how they need to approach their line cards, their product set, the components within their technology to include components that are outside of the U.S. market, because I think the biggest concern for the EU is the overall unpredictability of Trump. What he says today may be completely different, tomorrow, right? And you never really know.
Yeah, uncertainty kills business. Right. While we think the tariffs are having a negative impact, I mean, Amy and I were just looking at the markets from yesterday, and yes, the markets are down substantially. That's not the worst thing that could happen. Is that the U.S. is a service-based economy. And currently, services, particularly technology services, are not impacted by the tariffs directly. Now, when I say directly, all services are dependent on other things that are affected by tariffs, and that will affect spending. But the Europeans, and they have not ruled this out, could implement or impose VAT taxes or tariffs on services, cloud services, consulting services, managed services, and that could have a real negative impact on the U.S. economy.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see. Right now, we've witnessed, for lack of a better term, the shotgun effect of all of this. I've been grateful for the fact that we were able to experience it right where it hit, so we really know how everyone is reacting to it instead of just listening to it on the news. But it's going to be interesting to see how the trickle down effect that this is going to have on partners, distributors, two-tier distribution, on end users over the course of the next 90 to 120 days.
No, yeah, absolutely. And, take Amy's word for it. She knows about shotguns. She's from Alabama.
Roll Tide.
All right, everyone, this is about all the time we have. So listen, if you like what we're doing here, hit like, hit subscribe, tell your friends, check out our other podcasts, Changing Channels and The Network Effect, and check out all the great content we have on Channelnomics. Until next time, I'm Larry Walsh.
Amy Henderson.